9 states are set to end enhanced unemployment benefits on Saturday, which were created early last year in response to the economic impacts of the coronavirus pandemic. All 9 states are led by Republican governors. 3 states, Iowa, Missouri, and Mississippi, ended expanded benefits last week. 14 more states are set to end their benefits over the next month, and only one of those states, Louisiana, has a Democratic governor. Federal funding for enhanced unemployment benefits expires in September. For more, I want to bring in CBS News reporter Sarah Ewall-Wice. Sarah, what did the benefits that these 26 states are set to end actually include?
In nearly all cases, these benefits included those $300 supplement payments going out to folks who are unemployed that were extended through September 6th originally. But in most cases, they also include other programs that were created to help people who are unemployed, including the assistance for gig workers and folks who are self-employed who didn't qualify for traditional unemployment benefits in states. So you mentioned those 3 states that started ending them last week. More than 200,000 people were impacted in those states, some of them seeing all benefits disappear, some of them seeing only some of those benefits disappear depending on what benefits they were on. These 9 states we're seeing starting this week, in almost all cases, they're losing all of the federal benefits, Alaska being the one who's only losing that $300 supplement. And these will impact more than 400,000 people. So starting tomorrow, we're seeing over 600,000 people who are going to be seeing some benefits disappear, in some cases all benefits disappear. When this is all said and done with those 25 Republican-led states, we're going to see an impact on some 3.6 million people across the board as we move forward through the summer as those start to end in different states.
Yeah, Sarah, as you just repeated, that the vast majority, all but one of these states, are run by Republican governors. Why has this become a partisan issue, and what is the argument being made for ending these extended benefits early, particularly when the federal government has already allocated this money?
Right. So this is money that is set to go towards these states. They can't redistribute it to other situations. So they're basically leaving federal money on the table, which is pretty rare in most cases. In terms of the arguments being made when they started to exit the program or announce exits to the program last month, basically governors were citing workforce shortages in their states, saying they had the jobs available now that we're coming out of the pandemic, but they didn't have people to fill them. And they were blaming these $300 supplemental benefits and other benefits on keeping people from returning to work. So by ending them, they were arguing they're helping people return to the workforce. They were supported by a number of businesses in their states in doing so, and organizations, including chambers of commerce across the country in this effort. So that is something that has been driving them. In Louisiana, the first Democrat-led state to announce an early exit to these benefits, that's going to happen at the end of July. And he really said he was timing it out more to be in a responsible way, he put it, for when children start to go back to school in his state, which is in August.
And Sarah, in addition to ending these unemployment benefits early, I'm wondering, are employers in these states doing anything in particular to incentivize workers to return to the labor force that's different from what other states are doing?
So we have seen some companies that include some in these states that have raised wages to kind of entice some people to those jobs. There's a bit more competition to get workers back. In terms of overall, we've seen officials, particularly in other states, not specifically these, but in some cases, announce these bonuses for going back to work. The challenge is these bonuses are typically for $1,000 or $2,000, and they aren't going out to all workers returning to the workforce. It's kind of the first come, first serve return to work bonuses in these cases. And in that situation, a lot of these folks will not see them in many cases, and at the same time, those will not cover some of the benefits that they've been seeing already that they will no longer see as these states exit programs.
Sarah, I also want to ask you, because this week was a little bit different. It saw a spike in initial unemployment claims despite several weeks of declining numbers. What's going on?
Yeah, so we saw 412,000 initial claims this week after seeing a trend downward for the past 6 weeks. And that was an increase over what we had expected, or economists had expected we would see. They were predicting a 360,000 initial claims. And those were actually really driven by just 2 states, Pennsylvania and California, when you look at the numbers. But with that said, economists have told me that really this is not a reason to raise alarms right away because it's one number out of a bunch. They called it, really, in one case, she described it as a speed bump, but something to keep an eye on moving forward. One good piece of information that came out of yesterday's report is that the continuing initial claims, the 4-week average, was under 400,000 for the first time since the pandemic began last March. So that was a good sign as long as these continue to slowly trend downward, despite maybe a spike here and there.
Sarah, before I let you go, the White House also announced that Monday will be Child Tax Credit Awareness Day. Monthly payments are set to begin going out to U.S. households on July 15th. I'm hoping you can tell our viewers a little bit more about this and how they might benefit.
Sure. So the administration is trying to bring awareness to this round of payments that'll be going out to eligible families across the country starting July 15th. Those payments are $300 for parents with children under the age of 6 and $250 for parents with children ages 6 to 17 years old. Those will be made on a monthly basis. Folks who filed this year's tax returns, last year's tax returns, are already in the IRS system, so they should start receiving those benefits starting next month automatically. However, there are folks who are not already in the system, predominantly because they didn't have to file taxes, because those are low-income Americans who haven't had to. And so they're really trying to bring awareness to these benefits to folks who do qualify, who are low income, to make sure that they can get into the system so they can receive those as those start to roll out. They had launched a portal last week so that those benefits, folks could actually sign up for those. They're going to continue to do outreach to make sure that folks are aware of them moving forward, and they'll roll out some additional tools to help people navigate those moving forward. As we start to see them, those will run through the end of this year.
All right, Sarah, thanks.